Guys, today we're gonna be reacting to his story. And who is his story, man? Every YouTuber react to his story, man. Oh wait, before I see, let me take a gun. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now let's react to his story. Here we are, his story. Wait, I forget to do something. The volume is very low. It was very high. Didn't know. Now let's see.
I was typing on my school laptop when the webcam light started blinking, even though the camera was turned off. I immediately covered it with my hand and thought back to yesterday when the principal had handed these out at school. These laptops are completely free. Make sure to take them home. I waved at the lens and it blinked faster. I slid my chair back like the thing might bite me because someone had been watching me, but I rolled right back in and stared dead into the camera. Whoever you are, I'm catching you red-handed. I taped over the lens and took it to school the next morning, but the principal pulled me out of class at lunch and took me to his office. I know you've been damaging school property. He snatched my laptop and jabbed at the tape, but I jabbed back and asked, how did you know the tape was there? His face went red as he pushed me back. That's none of your business. Don't damage school property from now on. He pulled the tape.
Wait, I have something. The teacher is a kidnapper. I know it already.
Off and shoved the laptop back to me before kicking me out, but I was smiling ear to ear. That night, I sat in my bed and made sure the light was blinking again. Then I pretended to not notice the camera and said out loud, I have proof that the principal is spying on us. It's hidden in my drawer, but I'll hand it over to the police tomorrow. Then I closed my laptop, called the cops for real, and told them a man was breaking into my house. A few minutes later, my window slid open. I was lying on the bed and kept my breathing slow as footsteps crossed my carpet. When I cracked an eye open, the principal was digging through my drawer. His flashlight swung straight onto my face and my entire body locked up. I strangled my sheets as he stepped toward my bed, but that's when red and blue lights flooded my window and two cops burst in through the door. They slammed
Why he's so fat?
into my floor, and my fingers finally let go of the sheets. He got cuffed, screaming, "Those are my laptops! I have a right to use those cameras!" I sat up and waved at him from point blank. I promised I'd catch you red-handed, and that's exactly what I did. I was typing on my I was in a mall park. My little brother creeped toward my bedroom carrying a live hornet's nest while wearing a full hazmat suit. I gasped because I knew he was trying to get revenge on me for yanking out his PS5 right before he got his first. I was typing on my school laptop when my little brother creeped toward my bedroom carrying a live hornet's nest while wearing a full hazmat suit. I gasped because I knew he was trying to get revenge on me for yanking out his PS5 right before he got his first ever victory royale. But this was way too far, and I needed to stop him before he tried to murder me with hornets. I tiptoed after him, and he slipped inside, slid my closet door wide open, and set the nest on the shelf with a huge grin on his face. He stepped back and let out this muffled villain giggle behind the visor, like thinking about murdering me made him the happiest man in the world. I walked up and put one hand on my bedroom door, and he froze like a deer in headlights. I shut the door on him and his nest, and held down on the handle so he couldn't escape. He pounded on the door. "Let me out! The suit won't protect me forever." I leaned in close. "I'll let you out if you agree that the prank war is over, and carry that nest back to its tree where it came from." The buzzing got louder, and when I looked through the peephole, I saw a hornet land right on his visor, and his eyes went huge behind the plastic. "Okay, truce. The war's over. Let me out. Let me out." I breathed a sigh of relief and levered down the handle, and he stumbled out and immediately shut the door behind him, with his rubber gloves still on. He held out his arm. "Dude, come here and shake my hand." I walked towards him, and he stepped on my laces and tripped me up. I had my fingers crossed. War ain't over. I instantly put my hand on the handle and locked eyes with him. So were mine. I quickly pushed him back into the room and shut the door, just as the nest rolled off the shelf and split open on the floor. The last thing I saw was one hornet landing on his zipper and pulling it down. My little brother creeped toward my bedroom carrying a live hornet.
Wait, let me see his most popular video.
My twin brother Chris and I were 9 when we learned Morse code. We tapped messages under the dinner table when Mom told us to stop talking and tapped through the wall between our bedrooms every night. When Chris got into a car accident and the doctor said he'd never wake up, I pulled up a chair next to his bed, took his hand, and tapped. Are you there? Nothing. But I came back
Before I watch it, let me subscribe. Bangers.
next afternoon and tapped again. Before I left, I always said the same thing. See you tomorrow, Chris. A week later, Chris's fingers twitched against mine, and I almost fell out of my chair. I grabbed a nurse, and she barely looked up. They're reflexes. It doesn't mean anything. I bought a notebook the next day and started writing down every single one. 4 months in, Mom watched me scribbling and said, "How long are you gonna keep doing this?" Until he taps back. He's not gonna tap back. You're talking to a corpse. Dad lasted a few more months before he pulled me into the hallway. We need to talk about donating your brother's organs. His fingers move every time I hold his hand, Dad. The nurses said those are reflexes. Stop getting your hopes up, son. I don't care what the nurses say. You're not donating my brother's organs. But a week later, my parents called to have Chris transferred to a long-term facility to die and scheduled a meeting to sign the paper.
El parents, bro. What in the world are they even doing? Okay,
The afternoon before the meeting, I tapped into his palm like always, but this time, something tapped
let me
back.
see it.
Short, short, short. Long, long, long. Short, short, short. SOS. I grabbed his hand. Chris, if that's you, squeeze. Once, he squeezed so hard my knuckles cracked. I stormed into the meeting room and told them my brother just responded to me. The caseworker said, "This is very common with families who aren't ready to let go." My parents nodded. I grabbed the transfer papers off the table. "You're not signing anything until you come see for yourself." I walked them to Chris's bed and grabbed his hand. "Ask him anything." The caseworker asked what year it was. Chris squeezed out the answer. Count to 5. 5 perfect squeezes. His mother's name, tapped out letter by letter. By the 10th question, she said, "He's still alive. We can't move him." Weeks later, I asked Chris what kept him fighting when everyone gave up. Heard Mom call me a corpse. Heard Dad say donate my organs. Heard all of them leave, except you. I asked why. I wanted to see you too.
Okay.
My daughter came home crying with an F because her teacher doesn't know what color blood is. The first time I realized something was wrong, Riley came
Oh my god. Nah, bro. My teacher doesn't know what color is blood. Man, nah.
home from school holding out her arm. "Look, Dad, you can see the blue blood in my veins right here." She traced the blue lines under her skin with her finger. I put down my coffee and looked at her. "Actually, sweetheart, that's not true. Blood is always red because of hemoglobin. It's just darker red in your veins." Her face scrunched up. But Mrs. Miller showed us a whole PowerPoint about it. She even had diagrams from a science book. The next morning, I packed my work scrubs in my bag. I'm an ER nurse at Mercy General, and I was working the afternoon shift anyway. I sent Mrs. Miller an email asking if I could do a quick presentation about blood for career day that afternoon. She loved the idea. When I arrived, Mrs. Miller introduced me as Riley's dad who works at the hospital. 28 kids stared up at me from their desks. "I heard you guys learned that blood is blue inside your body," I said. The entire class nodded enthusiastically. Mrs. Miller beamed from her desk in the corner. I pulled out a blood collection tube from my pocket and held it up. "This is what we use to draw blood at the hospital. Notice something. The tube creates a vacuum. No oxygen inside at all." I paused. "When we draw blood with these, it never touches oxygen until we pop the cap off." I showed them photos on my phone of sealed blood tubes. "See? Still red." Mrs. Miller's smile started fading. She shifted in her chair and cleared her throat. A boy raised his hand and pointed to their science textbook. "But our textbook says it's blue." I picked up the book and checked the publication date, 1998. Medicine updates pretty fast. We used to think lots of things that turned out to be wrong. Mrs. Miller suddenly stood up from her desk, her hands gripping the edge. "Well, thank you for that interesting presentation, Mr. Johnson, but we need to move on to math now." I nodded and started packing when a girl in the back raised her hand. "So our textbook is wrong?" The class erupted in whispers. Mrs. Miller's jaw clenched and her voice got tight. "The curriculum says..." "Actually," I interrupted, pulling up the state science standards on my phone. I walked over and turned my phone toward her. "The current curriculum specifically mentions this myth as something to correct." She stared at the screen and her eyes narrowed. Her mouth pressed into a thin line and her nostrils flared. "Can I speak with you in the hallway?" The kids watched as we walked out and the door closed behind us. "Do you have any idea how hard it is when parents undermine my authority?" Her face was red and her voice was sharp. "Now they'll question everything I say." I kept my voice calm. "Isn't that exactly what we want them to do? Question things and learn critical thinking?" She crossed her arms tightly. "I've been teaching for 22 years. I'm not changing my whole curriculum because some nurse thinks he knows better than our textbooks." The next day, I found out Mrs. Miller gave the class a pop quiz. Riley came home crying, her face red and puffy. Her hands were shaking as she handed me a paper
Wait.
with a big red F.
Bro, that's only one answer. Oh, heck no.
on it. I took a deep breath and felt my jaw tighten as I looked at the question. What color is blood inside the body? Riley had written red, and Mrs. Miller had marked it wrong. I requested a meeting with Principal Davis and brought printouts of medical textbooks, the state science standards, and Riley's quiz. The principal called in Mrs. Miller and asked her directly, is blood blue inside the body? After a long pause, Mrs. Miller said, it's what the children understand better. I leaned forward in my chair. My daughter is crying every morning before school because she's afraid of getting F's.
Wait, that finished already. Every morning. Now let's go.
Flight attendant slipped me a napkin that said, the pilot isn't who he says he is. Meet me in the back to talk. I knew she chose to tell me because of the military dog tags around my neck. I folded the napkin and slid it into my pocket. And that's when the captain's voice came over the intercom. Good morning, folks. This is Captain Hopkins, expecting smooth skies to Chicago. But something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. I waited 2 minutes and casually walked to the back, not knowing what to expect. The flight attendant was there with a man holding up a police badge. The man whispered, I'm glad you're here. I'm an undercover cop. I knew something was wrong straight away. The flight attendant whispered, I've flown with Captain Hopkins for 6 years. I don't exactly know what's wrong, but I know that's not Hopkins, and we're flying the wrong way. She showed me the flight map of where we were heading. The plane is heading toward an abandoned airport. I leaned over the map. My body was pumping with adrenaline because it was the perfect place to crash a plane. There's an empty space above the pilot's room. I can climb up and listen to what the pilot and co-pilot are planning through the ceiling. Take my number. If you can tell there's something fishy going on, text me one word, now. That's the signal to move. And to distract everyone while I climbed above the ceiling, the flight attendant made an announcement on the speakers to tell everyone to keep their seatbelts on. Through the cracks, I could hear 2 men in the pilot's room talking. 15 years ago today, our brother died because of Captain Hopkins. Now we get to crash his plane with him tied up on it while we impersonate him. I texted the undercover cop. Now.
Wait. How the captain, how his brother died, and I don't know how to say that, man. And he was in front of the plane and his brother died. Even Captain Hopkins should have died, man.
The cart slammed into the pilot's room door, and the cop kicked it open. I dropped through the ceiling and tackled the fake pilot out of his seat. The cop pinned the co-pilot to the floor. The flight attendant grabbed the radio. Mayday, our pilot is gone. We need help landing right now. She looked at me. Find Hopkins, the actual pilot. He has to be on this plane somewhere. I sprinted to the back of the plane, checking every door. I yanked open the closet next to the bathrooms, and Captain Hopkins was inside with his hands tied and tape across his mouth. I ripped the tape off. Get me to the controls. He ran to the front and dropped into the pilot's chair. He grabbed the wheel. Tower, this is the real Captain Hopkins. I'm landing this plane. When we finally landed, the cops dragged the brothers off in handcuffs. The flight attendant came up to me in the aisle. I pulled the napkin out of my pocket and held it up. You saved 200 lives with this. She smiled and took it back. The flight
Ooh, something happened, maybe. They become, I don't know, just... Okay, let me go back there. Okay, I want to see this. Bro, why his face is like this, man? Why his face is like this?
A man climbed onto our school bus with a knife, and the first thing he heard was a slow clap from the back row. Confused, he screamed at our driver, Mrs. Worley, to keep driving and not stop for anyone. A kid leaned forward. Nice ski mask. Did you cut the holes out yourself, or did your mommy help you? The whole bus laughed. He waved the knife around. Shut up and no one gets hurt. Your hand is shaking so hard I can't tell if that's a threat or a dance move. He stepped toward the kid who said it, and 20 voices started talking at once. Oh, he's walking now. Everybody watch out. He spun around trying to find who said what, but insults were coming from every direction. Bro seriously hijacked a bus with no plan, no getaway car, and a Walmart knife. This is the saddest crime I've ever seen. We wouldn't let him finish a single sentence. Are you robbing us for money? All I have is an EBT card and a bus pass. He pointed his knife at Mrs. Worley, and the whole bus went silent. A kid stood up. You can threaten us all you want, but if you point that thing at Mrs. Worley again, we're gonna have a real different conversation. He laughed nervously and asked what a bunch of kids were going to do about it. A girl said, we're on the bus to the school for troubled teens. Half of us are here for assault, and the other half won't say why. Mrs. Worley looked at him over her shoulder. Honey, I've watched these kids make grown men cry over smaller things than pointing a knife at me. He looked.
Honey? You said honey? Oh, yeah, boyfriend, girlfriend? Oh, Heck no.
With the knife. Smart choice. She brings us donuts on Fridays. We protect what matters. His face twisted, and he shoved toward the kid with the knife raised. Mrs. Worley pulled over, stood up, and stepped between them. That's enough now. He grabbed her arm and shoved her into the dashboard. For half a second, the bus was completely silent. Then a kid came over the seats like something feral, and 3 others were right behind him. The guy didn't have time to turn around before someone hit him in the back of the knees, and he went down. The knife skittered under the seats, and kids were on top of him before he could reach for it. Someone had him in a headlock while someone else pinned his arms. A girl sat on his legs and went through his pockets just to add insult to injury. Mrs. Worley pressed the emergency button. I need police at my location. Tell them there's no rush. The situation is handled. The guy was crying. Please get off me. I can't breathe. A kid leaned close to his face. You should have thought about that before you touched Mrs. Worley. When the cops showed up, they found him tied to a seat with shoelaces and snot running down his face. A man climbed onto our school bus with a knife, and the first thing he heard was a...
What guy can dodge everyone? Mr. Beast and these people. Bro, they didn't even hit. Even careless, man, didn't even hit. Okay, now let's go. Let's see now video, man. Ooh. I'm so sorry, man.
When the Israelites saw Pharaoh's chariots, they were terrified.
What the heck
But
is
God
that?
told Moses to raise...
Wes shoved a box aside and dug through his garage attic looking for his old catcher's mitt. His baseball showcase was that weekend. Scouts flying in to watch him pitch. It's up here somewhere. He aimed the flashlight at the ceiling of his garage attic, and 200 eyes blinked back at us. Bats, hundreds of them hanging in rows with their wings folded against the rafters. Wes grabbed my arm. Don't move. I stepped backward onto a cardboard box, and it collapsed under my foot with a crunch, and the ceiling exploded. 200 bats dropped at once. The air turned into wings and teeth and screaming. I couldn't tell which screaming was mine and which was the bats. Wes grabbed a tennis racket off a shelf and swung it like he was serving at Wimbledon, connected with absolutely nothing but air. The follow-through spun him into a stack of boxes that collapsed on top of him. A Christmas tree fell on his legs. A bag of golf balls split open and bounced down the attic stairs like a cartoon. I yanked him up by the back of his shirt, and he came up swinging and almost took my head off with the racket. Those are my ears. Sorry. A bat tangled in my hair, and I slapped my own head so hard I saw stars. Wes tried to yank it out and took a chunk of my hair with it. I shoved him. He tripped over the Christmas tree again and went down for the second time in 10 seconds. Wes was swinging the racket blind with one hand and shielding his face with the other. We were both screaming words that weren't words. I tripped over a lawn chair and went down hard. A bat swooped past my face close enough to feel the wing on my cheek, but it didn't connect. The door! Get to the door! Wes kicked a path through the boxes. I scrambled after him on my hands and knees with bats bouncing off my back. One latched onto Wes's neck. He yelped and slapped it off. We threw ourselves through the attic door, and I slammed it shut. 3 bats made it through with us. We swatted them down the stairs. One flew directly into Wes's face, and he tumbled backward down the last 4 steps and landed flat on his back on the concrete garage floor. I jumped over him and landed on a skateboard. It shot across the garage. I slammed into the tool bench. A jar of screws exploded everywhere. I was on the floor covered in screws and attic dust and bat scratches. We lay on the garage floor for 10 seconds gasping at the ceiling. Wes had a bite on his neck and scratches across both arms. I was covered in attic dust and Christmas ornament glitter, but nothing had broken my skin. So, Wes said, we're not getting the camping gear. In 5th grade, a dog bit him, and he asked the owner what the dog's name was. The funniest and most stubborn person alive. I started laughing, and Wes joined in. We were on a garage floor covered in screws and ornament glitter with a Christmas tree between us. We laughed until my ribs hurt, and then I spotted the bite on Wes's neck and stopped laughing, deep enough to bleed, already swelling purple. The dread hit my stomach like cold water. We need to go to the ER right now. For a scratch? Your neck, Wes. That's not a scratch. That's a deep bite. Bats carry rabies. Rabies is fatal, as in you die. I'm not going to the ER. I was in the same attic and I didn't get bit. You got bit twice. That's not nothing. I'm not going to the ER for a bat bite. Rabies is literally 100% fatal. You don't have rabies. Neither do you if we go to the ER right now? He stood up and brushed himself off. He pulled the bat off the tennis racket strings where it was still tangled and tossed it into the yard. He wiped his hands on his jeans. I'm fine. You're fine. We're fine. He wasn't fine. The bite on his neck was ugly. The skin around it was swelling purple and he kept touching it and wincing. I called Liv on the way home. We just got attacked by 200 bats in Wes's attic. What? I'm serious. They were in the ceiling. It was like a horror movie except we had a tennis racket. Oh my God, are you okay? I'm fine. Wes got bit on the neck and he won't go to the ER. He should probably go to the ER. That's what I said. I would come help you drag him, but I've been in bed all day. I think I'm coming down with something. Like what? I don't know. Body aches. Sore throat. I feel gross. Feel better. I love you. Love you too. Make him go to the doctor. I went home and pulled up WebMD on my laptop. I typed bat bite rabies symptoms, and the first result made me shove back from my desk so hard the chair hit the wall. Near 100% fatality rate once symptoms appear. Final stage, paralysis, and death. I grabbed my phone and sent Wes 7 screenshots in a row. He sent back LOL and a skull emoji. I sent an 8th. Rabies has a 99.9% fatality rate. He sent back a photo of himself in bed, giving a thumbs up. The bite on his neck was purple in the photo. I slammed my laptop shut and paced my room in the dark. He called me an hour later, and I could hear the TV in the background, and he sounded normal. Dude, stop Googling rabies. The website says you can be asymptomatic for weeks, and then you just die. I feel fine. You don't know that. I know my own body. You felt fine before the Taco Bell incident, and you ended up in the hospital for that. That was different. How was that different? Because I ate 9 chalupas. This is a bat. He hung up. I pulled up the rabies page again. Once clinical symptoms appear, rabies is virtually 100% fatal. There is no treatment. I read it 3 times. Each time it said the same thing. No treatment. No cure. You get the shots or you die. I called Liv back. The rabies incubation window was closing. Every day without a shot was a day closer to the point of no return. Wes showed up at school looking rough. Dark circles carved under his eyes. Same attic. Same bats. Same chaos. Not a scratch on me. Meanwhile, his neck was swollen where the bat got him, and the band-aid was peeling off. You look terrible. Thanks. The bite was angrier, darker. Rabies travels through the nervous system toward the brain. The closer the bite to the head, the faster it moves. His bite was on his neck, 4 inches from his brain. He was sweating. It was 65 degrees. Wes was sweating through his shirt. I pointed at it. He looked down. I run hot. You run normal and you're drenched. Fever. 2 of 6 rabies symptoms checked. 0 on me. Same attic. Same night. He was falling apart and I was fine. I pulled him into the stairwell. You need to see a doctor. Today. No. Wes, your neck is purple. I'm not going. Why? Because I know what I have and it's not rabies. Then what? He shoved past me and walked to class. The door slammed behind him. New plan. If Wes wouldn't go to the doctor, I was bringing the evidence to him. I drove to the county health department after...
Will help you get tons of Robux in Roblox for free. Follow the steps with me.
I drove to the county health department after school. A woman behind the counter looked up. I need a rabies test. For yourself? For a bat. My friend was bitten and he won't come in. She slid a form across the counter. If you bring us the bat, we can test it. Positive result triggers a mandatory exposure protocol. Your friend wouldn't have a choice. I drove to Wes's house. His mom's car was gone. I climbed the ladder to the garage attic alone. The smell hit first. Dust and animal and something rotten underneath. I swept the flashlight across the rafters. Droppings everywhere. A dead bat in the corner behind the Christmas tree with its wings folded in. I picked it up with a plastic bag, dropped it in a Tupperware container from the kitchen, drove it to the health department with the container on the passenger seat where Wes should have been sitting. Results take 48 hours. The showcase was in 3 days. The next morning, Wes was fine, completely normal, cracking jokes in homeroom. He stole my granola bar at lunch and ate the whole thing while maintaining eye contact. See? My swallowing is fine. That's not how you test for rabies. How do you test for rabies? You go to a doctor, or you wait for the bat results. What bat results? I went back to the attic. I found a dead bat. The county is testing it right now. If it comes back positive, they can make you get the shots. His face went white. Not scared of rabies white. A different kind of white. You went back to the attic? Someone had to do something since you won't. Call them and cancel it. What? Call the health department and tell them to cancel the test. I'm not canceling the test that might save your life. He grabbed my arm across the cafeteria table. His grip was shaking. Theo, please, cancel the test. best. Why do you care? If you don't have rabies, the bat will test negative, and it won't matter. He let go of my arm and picked up his tray and walked away without answering. Liv called me that afternoon. Can you drive me to urgent care? My cold is getting worse. I picked her up. She climbed in, coughing into her elbow. The waiting room was packed. Liv filled out forms while I bounced my knee and stared at a poster on the wall. A bat with its wings spread and the words, "Rabies is preventable" in red letters. Underneath, post-exposure pro-
all, man. I'm not watching it all. I'm watching it all, man. If you wanna see a part 2, we're reacting to his story, like and subscribe.